We can start. Thank you, sir. Good evening, students. How are you doing today? I can see a lot of students joining in. Mitesh Bhai Patel, it's already evening. You are still in afternoon. Come to evening. Good evening, sir. Yeah, still we wait for some students to join in. Nishtala Shravani, your questions on the previous chapter. Uh, Enrollment number is the number which is given to a transporter. It's a unique number given. It's not 65 digits, so it can't be such big number. They've just said it will be a ENR number, which will be equivalent to the GST digits. So it should be equivalent to the 15 digits itself. Could you explain important aspects number 2 from the previous session? Yeah, Mayur, I will do revision in Hindi as well. So like how we have been doing in the previous sessions, doing the revisions wherever required in Hindi, I will do it. Don't worry about that. Important aspects from the previous chapter. Let me check that. You're saying the the circular part which I had given, right? Yes, the important aspects are this. On what happens in case of person who is storing goods in godown of transporter, and the transporter godown has to be declared as an additional place of business by the recipient. Okay. Generally, when we transport goods, the transporter the goods keeps with him, and at his convenience, he will transport the goods, right? For that, we will raise an e-way bill. We will mention the transporter's number. Those things are fine. But this circular says where you are storing your goods in godown of the transporter, okay, wherein the transporter's place, the transporter's godown you use for storing your goods. So if it is one time for one transportation, that's fine. But if you're regularly using this godown for storing your goods, then you have to declare the transporter's godown as an additional place of business. The transporter and recipient shall maintain the books of accounts, okay, because it is your goods, so you will maintain the books, and it is required by the law that the person who is holding the goods also has to maintain the account. Specifically, in case of a transporter and any godown holder, there was a requirement that even if they are not registered, they have to maintain the accounts, right? However, this clarification says that the books of accounts in relation to goods stored at such transporters godown, that is the recipient taxpayer's additional place of business, by the recipient taxpayer may be maintained by him at his principal place of business. When there is a requirement under the rules which says that the principal place as well as this transporter is required, but this circular says that where you are using a godown of a transporter, then in such case, if it is maintained at the principal place of business, that is sufficient, because they know the transporter is not a person who will maintain it. So they have given a relaxation through this circular, wherein if you are holding the goods as a transporter on behalf of the principal, then if the principal maintains the records of his stock at your godown, that is sufficient. Okay, that is what this circular clarifies. Clear, Nistala? To whom UIN is allotted? UIN is allotted to United Nations offices, embassy offices, those consulate offices which are there in India who don't do any supply of goods, but they receive goods and services from Indian GST registered person. Now, these people are not there under the zero rated category like SEZ. So they are there as a normal category. So, but they are not doing any supply and they should not get suffered by tax. That is the reason they have been allotted a UIN number. With this number, whoever is charging them GST, it gets captured in their UIN statement. When you put the UIN number, all the supplies what you have made to them, it will come up and they can claim refund for that. That's the reason they're given a special UIN number. Mr. Kiran, in terms of e-waybill requirement for multidimensional and multimodal, what is your query? Let me take you through that slide. Please be clear and crisp with your query so that we can answer to the point. The time limit for the e-waybill, the validity of e-waybill is dependent on this over-dimensional and multimodal shipment having one leg in ship. So let me explain you the whole thing. What is the validity period of a e-waybill? So validity period of e-waybill is for an over-dimensional cargo and multimodal shipment, wherein multiple modes of shipment you're using, where one leg is in ship, right? Which means that if you're transporting goods, like they're given example from Bangalore to somewhere in a city in Gujarat, going through the land is not possible because my goods are very huge. So I will transport from Bangalore to a nearest port. From that port, it will go to ship to a port in Gujarat. From the port, it will go to the city where I want to ship it to. Okay. Here, what is involved is there is a transportation by road, then there is one more transportation by ship, and then again a transportation by road. So that is satisfying the condition of multimodal shipment. And it also has one leg in the ship, right? Apart from this road, it is involving one leg in the ship. So that is satisfying the condition of multimodal shipment having one leg in the ship. So the validity of e-waybill will be 1 day for every 20 kilometers. Okay. Where it is over dimensional cargo, there also, as well as multimodal shipment, then it is 20 kilometers per day. In case of any other shipment, it is 200 kilometers. So if for this shipment, what I'm saying you from Bangalore to say Gandhinagar in Ahmedabad, in Gujarat, if I'm using through the ship route, then it is 20 kilometers. If I'm using through the road route, okay, and it's a normal cargo, not a over-dimensional cargo, then it will be calculated as 200 kilometers per day because it is transporting through a road. Okay. Now take an example that I'm transporting through road and then through a railway and again through a road. Still, it will be 200 kilometers, not 20 kilometers, because it does not involve, it involves multimodal shipment, but it does not have any leg in the ship. So it is not traveling through a ship. So it will be still continue to be 200 kilometers and not 20 kilometers. Okay, clear, Kiran? Okay, so with that, we will, I hope all your previous queries have been resolved. So we'll start with today's class on a very important topic, which is returns. Okay. So we have understood various provisions of the Act. We have understood various requirements of the Act. Now we will go into the, after understanding everything, now what we have to do, we have to file a return, right? Which is very important. So how do you file the return is what we will discuss today. What type of returns you have to file, what category of person you are. Are you a registered, normal registered person? Are you a person who is doing composition dealer? Are you a person who is a casual taxable person? Based on what category of a person you are, you will have to file your returns accordingly. So that is what we are discussing in today's chapter on returns. Okay. Returns, what are returns? Basically, returns are information which taxpayers give to the department for the transaction which is taken place in a given period, right? Like we had said that there is no kind of physical intervention by the tax department. They have given you a leeway saying that you file your returns accordingly, you manage your transactions accordingly, you do the valuation, you claim your input tax credit, you do the supply, you collect tax on behalf of the government. Now, after you have collected taxes on behalf of the government, you need to give us information, right? Now, what is this information is given through a return. So this return will give all the transactions what you have done for a particular period, and you will report it to the government. Okay, so return is that information which you give to the department for whatever sales and purchase transactions you have taken place in a particular period. Now, that particular period could be monthly, it could be quarterly, it could be yearly. Based on your categorization, it could be a monthly filing, it could be a quarterly filing, or an annual filing. Different types of return for different categories of people. For regular taxpayer person, it is different. For NRTP, it is different. For a composition dealer, it's different. And for UIN holder, it is different. Returns should provide the facts. Okay, it cannot provide something which you assume or something which you think is correct. It should provide the actual facts. If you have made a sale, then you have to report it. If you have got a receipt against services, you have to report it. You cannot say that I think it should not be payable or it should be payable. What you think is secondary, but this return should give the facts correctly. Then it is the returns should be in a specified format. Unlike accounts, wherein they said accounts and invoices are not in any specified format, but it should have those specified details that is sufficient. Returns is not such. Returns is there in a specified format, and you have to provide the information in this specified format. Okay, the format is designed in such a way that it will take care of the provisions of law bearing the liability. So it will bear whatever liability you have to pay, that it will consider, which is all your outward supply will be reported, all your reverse charge on which you pay output tax, that will be reported, all your input tax credit which you can claim will get reported, and the net liability will appear in the returns. So all of this separate places are available in the returns where you should report this. What is the purpose of the returns? It is mode of transfer of information to the tax administration. Like how we were saying that you do the transaction. Now, how will the tax department know how much transactions you have done? They will not come to you. They cannot individually come to all your dealers and say, ask for this. So we will have to proactively report it because they have given us a format of the return. We have to proactively report this. So it bridges the gap between the government and the dealers. Until the return is filed, there is a gap. The government doesn't know how much transaction of sales you have done, and you have not reported anything, except in case of e-way bill or e-invoice. But that it is not everything, right? Apart, when you do e-invoicing also, there is a sales, but purchases, some credit may be there available, some credit may not be available. Your vendor would have supplied or not. So a lot of things happen, right? So the dealers will have to accumulate all of this and report it to the government. So it bridges the gap between the dealer and the government, and it provides a chain from where the further proceedings happen. Second, it's a compliance verification program so that the taxpayer is bound by some verification which will happening on a periodical basis. If it is not there, then what will happen? It will be lethargic and you will report it whenever you feel like. But this return will make this a new verification tied to the taxpayer. And finalization of tax liabilities. Now you have collected, you have made sales. You have collected so much of taxes. When will it stop? When will you stop and report it to the government? So this return period comes in and says that, okay, you have done for this period. Now, whatever you have collected, give it to me, right? If they don't say though, then you will just start collecting and you will not report it, correct? But this mode will finalize the tax liabilities of a taxpayer, provides necessary inputs for taking policy decisions. The returns what you furnish gives lot of data, lot of information, lot of statistics to the government. And from this data, the government will come up with lot of information through which it can make policy decisions. How policy decisions are made, say in a particular area, how many restaurants are there? How much is the sales tax? How much is the GST they are collecting? Okay, so that will help the government to decide, okay, this region is having higher sale of restaurants, other region is not having, so should we do any policy matter for the state? So those kinds of decisions can be taken from the returns with the help of various returns, since the returns are coming in same format, not like accounts wherein you will follow one system, I will follow another system, and else will follow another system. It is all deviated, right? But this returns is common for all. So what information they need, it will be all available at a click of a button. Then it is also helpful in management of audit and anti-evasion program of the tax administration. So like how we had given an example of restaurant, if there is any other business, okay, say if there is a automobile industry, if there is a factory in this location and there is a factory in another location B, from the sales of location B, the government can get to know that yes, the sales is going good. And they're seeing that the location in other factories also going good, but the tax collection is low. Why is it so? So from this comparative analysis of people, of taxpayers in same industry, the tax administrator will get to know that what has to be done. What has to be done in terms of collecting taxes, what has to be done in terms of finding out the loopholes and fixing it up. That is the work of these returns, which the audit and anti-evasion team will use it for. Okay. Now, what are the returns you will file for? You will furnish a return. Okay. The various returns, what we furnish is, you will furnish details of outward supply in GSTR-1. So whatever sales I make, I will have to report that in my GSTR-1. Whatever outward sales I make, I will report that in a statement called as GSTR-1. But whatever reverse charge I pay, that is not reportable in GSTR-1 because that is not my outward supply. So if an advocate is providing service to a company, okay, in that case, who will do the reporting of this services by an advocate to a taxpayer? Will you get my question? My question is, who will do the reporting in GSTR-1 of this supply from advocate to the company? And the second link question is, who will pay the taxes on this? I think that you're pretty clear that the This is a category of reverse charge, so the company will pay it. But who will do the reporting in GSTR1? We know by now through this slide that furnishing of details of outward supply happens in GSTR1. So from this background, I'm asking you, who will do the reporting of this, of the supply transaction, outward supply transaction? Self-assessment, Bhaskar, how is it self-assessment? It is self-assessment, correct. But who will do the reporting of this self-assessment? Supplier would do the reporting. So in our case, who is the supplier? If I am paying the tax, am I the supplier? Divyanshi, you have also mentioned supplier. In this case, the company who's receiving the service is paying the tax. So will they do the reporting? Mayur is saying advocate. Lot of people are saying advocate. Kiran is saying advocate. Harish Chandra is saying reporting by the advocate and tax will be paid by the receiver of service. There is an option. Nagaraj is saying there is an option to file GSTR1 by both. If advocate is not registered, then recipient will declare in his GSTR1. If Hardik is saying if advocate is registered, then advocate, otherwise company. So is it like that, that if supplier is registered, he will report it? If he is not registered, then the receiver will report it in his GSTR1. Ram Jha is saying recipient will give tax under reverse tax and collect it from advocate. Oh my God. So if he has to collect from the advocate, then why is there an exemption to advocate? You don't pay tax, receiver will pay tax. Then what is the benefit of the to the government that if one of them is paying it? Pooja is saying who is making outward supplies? That is the question. Who is making outward supply in this case? Both will report. Oh my God. Both will report in their GSTR1 as supply. Hemlata is saying reporting is done by advocate. So if the supply is exempt, then still GSTR1 is to be filed. Yes, still it is required to be filed. Will it be no reporting? Oh my God. So you are trying to explore the whole ocean and giving all options. I don't think any option is left. Even no supply or no reporting also option you have been given. Harish Chandra is saying no, receiver cannot report in his GSTR1. He's very strongly saying who is given that answer that the company has to report it. The receiver cannot report in GSTR1. Okay, correct. To settle all of this, Preeti Khetan is saying advocate is providing the outward supply, so advocate will report it. That is the right answer. And not only Preeti Khetan, others also have reported that the advocate will report. That's the correct answer because you see GSTR1, it says that furnishing of details of outward supply. So who is doing the outward supply in this case? The advocate is doing the outward supply. So if he is registered, he will report it. If he's not registered, he will not report it. Okay. So the payer will always be the receiver, who is the taxpayer, but he will not report in his GSTR1 because GSTR1 is for all the outward supply. Okay. So this is the outward supply for the advocate. He will report it. For the receiver, they will pay reverse charge. Where they will report it, for that we have this next option, wherein GSTR-3B. Furnishing the details under section 39. 39 is the section for returns which says that you have to file your returns and pay taxes. In that GSTR-3B, we will report the total value of this GSTR-1 and tell this is my taxable value and this is my tax. Individual outward supply details I'll give in GSTR-1. Consolidated I'll give in GSTR-3B. I will then include in the 3B whatever is the inward supply on which I have to pay reverse charge. Then I will claim my input tax credit and finally pay the taxes. Okay. GSTR-1 is purely for outward supply. Okay. Clear? So GSTR-1, in a case where the supplier doesn't pay taxes, the receiver has to pay taxes. Still, he will report in this GSTR-1. And receiver, even if he pays taxes, he cannot report in the somebody else's GSTR-1. In his GSTR-1 also, he cannot report reverse charge mechanism concepts because that is not his outward supply. The word used here is furnishing of details of outward supply. Okay. So that's the reason the advocate will report it and receiver will pay it in his GSTR-3B. Now, once reporting in 1 happens, the sequence is that 1 happens, then the 3B comes in. In the 3B, you will file the outward reverse charge, input tax credit, and then pay the taxes. Then for a composition dealer, there is a special return called GSTR-4. And for non-registered taxable person, there is GSTR-5. What are the other returns you will file? There is something called as first return. There is something called as GSTR-8 for there's a statement of TCS. Then annual returns have to be filed in GSTR-9, 9A or 9B, depends on the taxpayer. Then a final return. Once you do a cancellation, then you have to file a final return called GSTR-10 and the UIN holder files a return in GSTR-11. So each of these returns is what we are going to deal in this chapter. Okay. Yes, GSTR-2A is not there in the flowchart because GSTR-2A, it comes automatically. So these are the returns which we will file. GSTR-2A and GSTR-2B, you don't file it, you use it. That's why it's not there in this flowchart. So if the advocate is unregistered, then the company will file the GSTR-1. No, it will not. Even if the advocate is unregistered, nobody files the outward supply. So outward supply has to be filed by the person who's making outward supply. Now, if outward supplier is not registered, then he will not file it. For CTP, which GST return? Regular GSTR-3B itself. If I made regular B2B supply other than RCM and by mistake I filed GSTR-1, but that B2B supply in RCM, so there is any correction process? Yes, you can do a correction of a incorrect GSTR-1, what you have filed, Avinash. You can do the correction. Okay. So now we will go one by one. Important thing to be noticed is all these returns, whatever we are discussing, are under GST are to be filed electronically. Accounts you maintain manually. Invoice you can maintain manually, optional. If you maintain electronically, it's fine. But returns, can you file a return? Say I am in a Mofussil area with access to a computer. Okay, I am maintaining invoices manually. I'm preparing accounts manually. Now returns, I will take the format from the book, GST book. This has the format of the returns. From this, I will take the return, print it out, fill it manually, and submit it to the officer saying that, take, this is my return. Will the tax officer accept? Yes, Switi Kumari, as GSTR through 2B is auto-populated, then in case of supplier being unregistered and recipient is registered, then how will inward supply be reported? So if the supplier is unregistered, there you cannot claim the input tax credit. In our case, in our example was a unique example because the supplier, whether registered or unregistered, that is a case where it is under reverse charge mechanism. So if the lawyer is not registered, you will still claim the credit because you are paying tax under reverse charge. Okay. So that gives a very important point that credits, the input tax credit, what you claim is basis GSTR-2B, and in addition to that, where you are paying RCM, it is based on the challan what you pay. That is, whatever taxes you pay, that is also being added to your input tax credit. This you would have learned in your input tax credit, right? Saying that credits are of two types, what is received from the supplier and those credits which you pay taxes on. In case of reverse charge, it is you who are paying the taxes. So that will be the basis, not the GSTR-2B in that case. Hemalata, what is your question? Is there any difference between the actual sales made and the one reported? They generally there should not be. If there is any difference, then you have an opportunity to rectify that and rectify that whenever you find that error. Only electronic return is accepted, but manually it is not accepted, right? The company will pay tax on reverse charge after furnishing 3B along with 3B issuer. So in the 3B format, we'll see that there itself they have a column to mention the taxes on which output tax is paid and the taxes on which reverse charge is payable. Okay, correct. So everybody is given a correct answers that even if a person is in any rural area, you still has to file it electronically. No option of filing manually at all. Okay. Why it is important to file the returns on a timely basis? So if I file late, I will pay late filing fees, I will pay interest. But what is the importance of this timely filing? Taxpayer is required to estimate his tax liability on self-assessment basis and deposit his tax along with filing returns. The return is therefore a working sheet for the authorities to rely on because their data, their working depends on your timely filing of returns. So if you file the returns on time, the government will get the data accurately. That's why it is important to file the returns on a timely basis. The other important, practically importance of this timely filing is it has a bearing on the person to whom you have supplied. To whom you supply, he will claim the credit based on your return. Since based on your supplies and your returns, the recipient can claim the credit. That's why the supplier, if he files the returns on time, then the recipient will be able to claim the credit. Okay. If you fill GSTR-1, 2A and 2B gets auto-populated of this good support. You're right, Mayur. That is also another point that GSTR-2A and 2B gets filled basis your GSTR-1. So if you file it on time, they will be able to get the credit timely. Otherwise, their credit gets delayed. Now, how do you file your GSTR returns? GSTR returns needs to be filed online electronically. It can be filed, it shall be filed on the portal, which is gst.gov.in. You can log in through the portal, enter the details, or you can upload it through an offline utility, which is provided by the GST itself. Wherein if you have multiple data, you cannot feed in manually, then use this offline utility for filing the returns. Third option is you can use the benefit or this utility called as GST Suvidha providers, wherein if you have huge data, this offline utility also will not help. And you want that your accounting records, your software through which you are maintaining records, from there some data integration should happen and it should go through the return. In that case, these GST Suvidha providers help you in finding a link and reporting the data to the GST portal directly. GST Suvidha providers, also called as GSPs, are ecosystem of third-party service providers who help taxpayers in GST compliance. GSPs are allowed to integrate with the GST portal, and GSPs develop application for return filing, reconciliation with auto-populated data support, and extra. But their main function is that it can convert or do a synchronization between your accounting or your ERP systems with the GST portal. Now, the information furnished in the returns are stored in the common portal, and it will be same for the center and state. So any state, any person providing the returns will be the same. And it will be one return for all CGST, SGST, IGST, cess, and everything. What does working sheet means? जब भी आप audit बनाते हो, ठीक है, आपके पास working sheet रहता है, saying that what is the basis of it. GST returns जो भी है, the GSTR-3B is वाली concise compact return है, उसमें आप सब details नहीं fill करते हो, तो उसका backup paper जो है वो आपका working sheet कहा जाएगा. So when I say returns are working sheet, it means आप जो reporting कर रहे हो उसका working उसमें रहेगा. That's why it is called as a working sheet. How do I correct mistake? We will come to the amendments in the return. What is offline utilities? Can you give example? Right. So if you have seen that बड़ी कंपनीज में बड़े डेटा होते हैं ना, उनके डेटा जो है मैन्युअली फाइल नहीं कर सकते. 5, 10, 50, 30, 100 लाइन आइटम्स तक आप मैन्युअली फीड कर सकते हो. उसके ऊपर आप एवरी मंथ डूइंग दैट मैन्युअल फीडिंग बिकम्स प्रॉब्लम. तो क्या होता है, जीएसटी पे एक जेसॉन फाइल आता है, उसके पहले फाइल आता है. उसमें क्या कर सकते हो, आपके जो भी डेटा है एक्सेल में, आप उस डेटा को उस ऑफलाइन यूटिलिटी में डाल सकते हो. इट्स लाइक अ एक्सेल शीट, नॉर्मल एक्सेल शीट की रहेगा, लेकिन थोड़े एक्स्ट्रा फीचर्स रहेंगे वेर इन इट विल वैलिडेट द डेटा कि आपके डेटा करेक्ट है या नहीं है. Okay, if your data is correct, then it will allow and it will create a file which will be a machine readable file, और उस machine readable file को आप रिटर्न में फाइल कर सकते हो ताकि आपका डेटा क्रंच होके जल्दी से फाइल हो जाए. ठीक है, तो आपके सॉफ्टवेयर से जीएसटी पोर्टल में जाने के लिए इस बीच का जो रास्ता है उसे कहते हैं ऑफलाइन यूटिलिटी. आयशा, व्हाट डू आई रिपीट? Sir, if Start College provides services student not registered, not understanding your question. Now, let us go by one into what are the various returns. We'll, yeah, questions before that. Thank you, Sakib. If this Hindi lecture is also helping you, जहां पर भी मैं हिंदी में नहीं बोलता हूँ, आप मैसेज डाल दीजिए. I will keep seeing it and repeating if I've missed in Hindi. ठीक है. So this, Aisha, I didn't get what is your point, so you could just see to it later on. The statement of outward supply. So first we'll start with GSTR-1. What is GSTR-1? It is a statement of your outward supply. So even though it is there in the returns chapter, actually, strictly speaking, this is not a return. This is just a statement. ठीक है, लेकिन इट्स अ वेरी पावरफुल स्टेटमेंट, क्योंकि आप इस स्टेटमेंट में क्या कर रहे हो, इस स्टेटमेंट में आपके आउटवर्ड सप्लाईज रिपोर्ट कर रहे हो. जो भी आपके आउटवर्ड सप्लाईज है उसको आप रिपोर्ट कर रहे हो. इसके बेसिस पे रिसीवर को क्रेडिट मिलेगा. सो इट्स अ वेरी स्ट्रॉन्ग स्टेटमेंट. सो टेक्निकली इट्स नॉट अ रिटर्न, बट इट हेल्प्स इन द रिटर्न. But actually, it is a statement of the outward supplies which is reported in GSTR-1. Section 37, read with Rule 59, is the relevant provisions for this. Furnishing details of outward supply. Here it is only furnishing of the details of outward supplies and not a return. But this statement helps in determining the tax on outward supply. क्योंकि अगर मैं बोलता हूँ जब मैं GSTR-1 फाइल करता हूँ तब मेरा सेल्स 100 करोड़ है, सो ऑब्वियसली मेरे GSTR-3B में भी मैं 100 करोड़ के ऊपर टैक्स भरूंगा. बट इफ आई पे टैक्सेस ऑन 99 करोड़, मतलब 1 करोड़ का मेरा शॉर्ट पेमेंट है. So there is, in such cases, there is a linkage between GSTR-1 and 3B. that if I've reported sales of 100 crores in GSTR-1, then obviously I have to pay taxes on this GSTR-1 to the extent of 100 crores. But these are two separate returns. GSTR-1 is a separate return and 3B is a separate return. If I don't report 100 crores in 3B, it means there is a short payment of 1 crore tax on that 1 crore. So that's why it helps in determining the liability because it doesn't get auto-populated. Even though it gets auto-populated, you can change it. That the data, what you have reported in GSTR-1, you will file your GSTR-1 first, then your 3B. So data from 1 goes to the 3B saying that this is your liability, but you can always change it. So 1 helps in deciding the tax liability and helps the officers to decide that what if you're paid less tax. Now, this details of outward supply has to be furnished in Form GSTR-1 electronically on the common portal directly or through this facilitation centers, that is GSPs and other things. If the regular monthly return, that is 3B, the supplier does not declare the invoice-wise and recipient-wise details. So we'll come to 3B, but here we have to understand the importance of GSTR-1 because the data what we give in GSTR-1 is so huge. But in 3B, we give just one line item. In the GSTR-3B return, we don't give invoice-wise and recipient-wise details. But in 1, we give supplier. If it is B2B supply, we will mention as GST number. If it is B2C supply, then if it is value more than 250,000, then also we'll give the details. So a lot of information goes in 1, but in 3B, the summary of this will go. 3B is only a summary of outward supplies and inward supply numbers. But the recipient need to get the credit because of this GSTR-1 is to be filed. Because if GSTR-1 is not there, how will the recipient claim the credit? He will claim based on our purchases. But the government wants कि जैसे 26 AS है in income tax, वैसा एक system बने कि अगर मैं आपको सप्लाई करता हूं तो आपको उसका क्रेडिट मिलना चाहिए ना कि किसी और को. And how will the government know that if the credit what your claim is from this supplier? You will tell I have the invoice, but there has to be a digital integration. इसीलिए GSTR-1 आया है. GSTR-1 में you will report the GST of a recipient and you will upload it and recipient के statement GSTR-2A and 2B में दिखेगा, then he is eligible to claim the credit. Okay. The due date for filing GSTR-1 is 10th of the subsequent month, which is there in section 37. Okay. Section 37 says that return has to be filed within time. This is there in section 37. So 37 says that the due date is 10th, but it says that the date can be extended by the commissioner. So Act says 10th. Then it also says a relaxation that if the commissioner wants, he can extend it. So now commissioner, instead of giving individual extensions, he has said that we will extend for all. How we will extend? We'll extend by 1 day. So he's changed it that from 10th up 11th ko kar do for whom? From the end of the month for people who are having turnover more than 5 crores. And 13th of the end of the quarter for people who are having turnover less than 5 crores. Okay, that is people who have opted for QRMP scheme. So you have 2 time limits. First is 10th as per the Act. Then the commissioner said the power to the commissioner is given to extend. So now practically based on that power, commissioner has mentioned that the due date for filing GSTR-1 is 11th for tax higher taxpayers. Higher taxpayers means who have a turnover more than 5 crores, and the people who are having turnover less than 5 crores, you can file quarterly returns and you can file your GSTR-3B after the end of the quarter by the 13th. Okay? So there are 2 due dates for GSTR-1. One is 10th and one is 13th. Yeah, Nistala, for section numbers, wherever important, as I discussed, that will be important. So that is mandatory to be mentioned. Composition dealer, GSTR-1, it does not furnish. वैष्णवी बिंदल, GSTR-1 में टाइम ऑफ सप्लाई का क्या इफेक्ट होगा अगर टाइम ऑफ सप्लाई इज डिस्पैच डेट एंड डेट ऑफ इनवॉइस इज लेटर? प्लीज एक्सप्लेन इन हिंदी. करेक्ट. तो अगर आपका टाइम ऑफ सप्लाई बताता है कि आपका टाइम ऑफ सप्लाई के प्रोविजंस के हिसाब से आपका टाइम ऑफ सप्लाई हो गया है ऑन द 17th ऑफ मार्च, ठीक है। लेकिन आपने इनवॉइस रेस कर दिया है से 1 अप्रैल, तो आप रिपोर्टिंग 1 अप्रैल के बेसिस पे करोगे। इसका मतलब आपका रिपोर्टिंग रॉन्ग हो गया है, राइट। तो आपका रिपोर्टिंग रॉन्ग होने की वजह से आपको पेनाल्टी और इंटरेस्ट लगेगा। सो अगर आपको पता है कि आपका टाइम ऑफ सप्लाई 17 मार्च है, तो आपको मार्च के रिटर्न्स में ही ये सप्लाई दिखाना चाहिए था। लेकिन अगर आप अप्रैल के मंथ में दिखाते हो बेस्ड ऑन इनवॉइस, तो फिर वो गलत हो जाता है। तो आपका टाइम ऑफ सप्लाई प्रोविजंस बताता है कि आपको कब इनवॉइस रेज करना चाहिए। लेकिन फिर भी अगर आप लेट करते हो तो आपको माफी तो नहीं मिलेगी, आपको यही करना पड़ेगा कि आपका रिटर्न जो है वो गलत हो जाएगा। तो फिर अगर आपको पता है कि आपका रिटर्न गलत है तो उस गलत रिटर्न के लिए इंटरेस्ट पे करिए। बट जनरली लोग ऐसे क्यों करेंगे? क्योंकि वो अवॉइड करना चाहते हैं टैक्सेस को। तो फिर उसके कॉन्सिक्वेंसेस अलग है। हम ये डिस्कस कर रहे हैं कि जब टाइम ऑफ सप्लाई दिया है तब आप उसको कंप्लाई कीजिए, ठीक है। What if GST is not paid by my buyer? How will I claim the credit? Correct. So this GSTR-2A and the conditions of Section 16 is so very stringent, Amulya, that you will get the credit only if you satisfy all these conditions. So that's a big challenge going on in various courts and Supreme Courts and High Court, saying that if the supplier is at default, why should I get impacted? So it's a matter which is there at the Supreme Court level, that why am I being impacted? But that is what is the law for now, and we have to follow the law. QRMP scheme, Bhaskar, मैं अभी बताता हूँ for your information, that any person who is having a turnover below 5 crores, तो फिर he can file a quarterly return and make monthly payment. So the full form of QRMP is quarterly return monthly payment. आपको quarterly return file करना है और monthly payment करना है। Because you are a small dealer, so you file your returns quarterly, but taxes तो आपको monthly pay करना पड़ेगा. That is the scheme of QRMP. Last para, please explain, sir जी. Which para? Yeah. So क्या बोलता है सेक्शन 37, जो मेन सेक्शन है, वो बोलता है आपका रिटर्न 10th है, लेकिन उसमें एक रिलैक्सेशन दिया गया है, वेयर इट सेज दैट अगर कमिश्नर चाहे तो इस डेट को एक्सटेंड कर सकता है, ठीक है। तो इसीलिए कमिश्नर ने पावर यूज करके कह दिया एक नोटिफिकेशन और रूल के थ्रू की, दिस रूल 1959 सेइंग दैट ठीक है, मैं सभी का डेट एक्सटेंड करता हूं क्योंकि मेरे पास पावर है, और मैं जो बड़े टैक्स पेयर्स है उनके लिए 11 तक एक्सटेंड करता हूं, और छोटे टैक्स पेयर के और 2 दिन एक्स्ट्रा देता हूं, आप 13 तक सबमिट कीजिए। तो यू हैव टू ड्यू डेट्स, 11th फॉर बिग टैक्स पेयर एंड 13th फॉर स्मॉल टैक्स पेयर्स। Turnover more than 5 crores, they can't adopt quarterly, they cannot. If due to fire or some other reason returns are not filed before and after due date, तो फिर interest pay कीजिए ना। So these things will keep coming and these things will going. उसके लिए आपके लिए कुछ अलग से extension नहीं मिलेगा, तो आपको with interest pay करना पड़ेगा। There's no business transaction in particular tax period. Is there any mandatory to file GSTR? Yes. GSTR-1, GSTR-3B, Jyoti has to be filed. Even if you don't have any business transaction, you have to file a nil return. Now, what details you will furnish? GSTR-1 has to be filed by every registered person, including a casual taxable person. Including a casual taxable person. Somebody was asking for composition dealer. So composition dealer will come here, that for who are the people for whom GSTR-1 is not applicable. GSTR-1 is applicable for all, including a casual taxable person, but excluding a ISD. ISD is a input service distributor. What does this ISD do? It is not there in your syllabus, but understand this, that if you have, we have explained this in the past, but pay attention again now. A person who is having a head office and it has various branches. Now the credit for all the branches, it will tell all its vendor that give it to my one person, one registration called as input service distributor registration. From this input service distributor who is getting credits on behalf of all the branches, it will distribute the credit. So that's why it is the name itself says the input service distributor. So it distributes the input to its other branches. This is called an input service distributor. So it will distribute based on the logic what is given in the law. It will distribute the credits to various branches. That is the input service distributor. So it is not doing any supply. पूरा credit ले रहा है और distribute कर रहा है, तो उसके लिए supply की जरूरत नहीं है. So IST will not file the GSTR-1. A non-resident taxable person also will not file. A composition taxpayer, why he will not file? Composition taxpayer के लिए तो tax है ना. So then why do you think composition taxpayer के लिए GSTR-1 exempted है? Then a person paying TDS, जो TDS पे कर रहा है, TCS पे कर रहा है, वो तो सप्लाई कुछ नहीं कर रहा है. So these people are not required. Even a supplier of OIDAR, online information database access and retrieval services, उनके लिए returns अलग है. So that's why they are not required to file GSTR-1. ओके. वैसे भी OIDAR को जो भी टैक्स चार्ज करेगा और रिसीवर को क्रेडिट नहीं मिलेगा, इसीलिए OIDAR को GSTR-1 नहीं है. बट अ कैजुअल टैक्सेबल पर्सन फ्रॉम वन स्टेट टू अनदर स्टेट यू आर गोइंग. सिमिलरली एनआरटीपी, बट एनआरटीपी के लिए वन फाइल नहीं करना है, कैजुअल टैक्सेबल पर्सन के लिए फाइल करना है. माय क्वेश्चन व्हाट आई वाज आस्किंग इज, फॉर अ कॉम्पोजिशन टैक्स पेयर व्हाई इज GSTR-1 नॉट रिक्वायर्ड? Good, Mayur. You're paying very attention and you're giving the answers so fastly and correctly. Appreciate that. Awesome, Sweetie Kumari. Awesome, Hemlata. Because composition dealer is not eligible to avail ITC. ठीक है, but my question is not on his availing ITC. He is making outward supply, so he will not avail the ITC. Correct hai, but he is making supply, Hemlata. So if he is making supply, then he should report in GSTR-1, right? Why is he not required to file GSTR-1? Composition taxpayers files returns quarterly, therefore is not required. तो क्या हुआ? What is the logic for not filing GSTR-1? Hmm. Composition pays tax on turnover basis, not on person, on turnover. Turnover के ऊपर percentage of basis. So, Harshit, your understanding is wrong, or I don't know, you're confused because you're saying composition taxpayer pays on turnover basis, not on turnover percentage of the turnover. No, you're not paid attention to the composition dealers. So I could get any initially two correct answers, but after that, nobody is giving a correct answer. Correct. Hemlata, now you're given a correct answer. Mitesh Kumar, correct answer. Kiran, correct answer. Miss Pooja, not required make taxable invoice. Yeah, that is also correct. No more answers. Because not collected taxes, correct. They will have to file bill of entry. So the main reason is composition dealer files, gives you a bill of supply, right, on which he cannot collect tax. A, a composition dealer makes a supply, but he doesn't collect taxes, and he's not supposed to collect taxes also. That is the reason GSTR1 is not there for him. Okay, because for us to remember who are the people who are included and who are people who are excluded from this GSTR1, we need to know the logic. So now we know the logic that a composition scheme taxpayer का tax का credit किसी को नहीं मिलेगा, इसीलिए he is not required to file this GSTR1. ठीक है? So except these 6 people, everybody else has to file the GSTR1. Who are the 6 people? Input service distributor, NRTP, composition scheme taxpayer, person paying TDS, person paying supplier ID. So these 6 people can छोड़ के everybody else, specifically casual taxable person included, they have to file GSTR1. Now we are talking about this QRMP. Somebody was asking what is QRMP? Quarterly return, monthly payer. Now this QRMP people also, they said that you file your GSTR1 and 3B on a quarterly basis. Okay, I will file quarterly. But the problem comes is the buyer. Let's take an example here of one of the students, Nagraju. Nagraju is one who is registered under QRMP. Now Nagraju is there in South. He is supplying it to Mayur, who is in West. Now Mayur, when he is buying from Nagraju, he is bought on a monthly basis. Mayur is not a small dealer. He is a big dealer. He is filing returns on a monthly basis. Now Nagraju is a small payer. He is paying tax on a quarterly basis. Now he will file his returns on a quarterly basis and he will upload his GSTR1 on a quarterly basis. Lekin Mayur ka credit will get affected because he will see that I have made payment to Nagraju. I have received the goods, but what I have given him, he has given me that invoice. No, that invoice is not appearing in my GSTR2B. Why it is not appearing? He has paid the taxes. He has filed his returns. Has he filed his returns? He is not filed his returns because for him the scheme of QRMP is available. I have purchased from him in April. Like in credit, I will see after April, May, June quarterly. In the June's return, June GSTR2B, I will see the credit. So my credit is getting blocked for 3 months. April ka credit I'm getting in June. This will be a problem. So that's why under this QRMP, they came up with a scheme called as invoice filing facility. Okay, they came up with this invoice furnishing facility, which said that you are a QRMP person. Nagraju, you are a QRMP person now, but you are making supplies to registered persons also. Now, if you are making supplies to registered person, now those people are waiting for you to give the credit. You collected the taxes and you're not giving the credit. So they will start crying. So what you do, you upload this invoices on a monthly basis. You file GSTR1 and GSTR3B on a quarterly basis, but you file such invoices for whom the suppliers are for your customers who want the credit. You upload these invoices and credit notes in another mini GSTR1 called as invoice filing facility, invoice furnishing facility. That's the right word. Invoicing furnishing facility. You file these B2B supplies in this IFF by the 13th. Okay. So you are filing for a quarterly basis. Fine. File it on a quarterly basis. Okay, so you're filing on a quarterly basis, fine. If you on the month end, you do the filing GSTR1. But for these people, for the first month and second month, when you're making the payment, because your QRMP quarterly return monthly payments, so you make the payment of taxes, fine. But for these people who are wanting to get the credit, for them you upload the invoice in IFF. so that it will reflect in the GSTR 2A or 2B immediately. So then they will not fight with you saying that I will not purchase with you because you're not giving the credit. I'll give you the credit, Baba. I'm a quarterly payer, but I'll give you a credit on a monthly basis through this QR, through this IFF. So you furnish the invoices through this IFF by the 13th. And then when the third month comes, have you uploaded the IFF for month 1 and month 2? Yes. Then upload for month 3, third month, invoices in GSTR-1 by the 13th of the month of the next quarter. No, you have not furnished month 1, month 2 because Nagaraj is saying, I don't have any customer like Mayur who are coming and shouting at me that saying I'm not getting the credit. They are okay that if I give on the third month. So for month 1 and month 2, I will relax. I will do my regular transactions. I will not go to the GST portal except for payment of taxes. I've paid the taxes over. So for such people who are not having customers, who are not fighting with them, they will upload month 1, month 2, and month 3 invoices in GSTR-1 directly on the 13th of the next month. Clear? So if you want to give credit, file this IFF. If you don't want to give credit, just file GSTR-1 at the end of the third month. Sweetie Kumari, by the logic, exempt supplier also don't get to file GSTR-1. If you remember, under registration, we said there is an exemption that a person who is completely supplying exempt supply, he is not required to take registration also. But if he takes registration, then he will have to do all this compliances. Nishtala Shravani, please explain. Third month again, sir, little confusing. Okay. First month and second month, you understood that your customers are shouting, so you are doing IFF. Now, if you have reported in IFF, in the third month, don't do this reporting again, because what you have done in IFF will come and sit in your GSTR-1. So other supplies, other than those what you have reported in IFF, that you include in GSTR-1, don't do duplication is what it is saying. Okay. So if you have done in IFF, good. If not, then do it in your GSTR-1. And if nothing you have done in your IFF, then do everything in your GSTR-1. Okay. We will use this IFF now very frequently. So please go through this and let me know if IFF concept is clear. Very good question, Vaishali. Can we just furnish some customers' details in IFF and some others at the end of the quarter? Yes, you can do that. Because another thing is in IFF, the limit also is there. It says only 50 lakhs per month you can do. So you should select only those customers who are shouting more. With their details only, you should give it in IFF. And those customers who are okay, their supplies you will have to report in your normal GSTR-1. So the limit of IFF is also 50 lakh rupees only. So the B2C supply can only be filed in third month, right? Isn't it mandatory to file B2B supplies in the respective months? Yes, it is mandatory, but there is a limit, Sri Lakshmi. So you can file only to the extent of 50 lakh rupees. I am furnishing invoice under IFF for the first month and paying tax in the last month while filing 3B. Then there will be any interest? Yes, because that is a QRMP scheme. It means that quarterly return, monthly payment. Monthly payment is based on your monthly sales. You have made supplies in first month. You are liable to pay taxes in the first month. If you don't pay in taxes in the first month and you pay in third month, then for that portion, there will be a interest. Is there any date for uploading the invoice details in IFF? Yes, Baba. Venisa, there is a date. No, we have mentioned here by the 13th of the subsequent month. So now let's take an example of quarter one. April, May, June is your quarter. April month sales, you will report in IFF by the 13th of May. And May supplies, you will report it in IFF by the 13th of June. Okay. And whatever supplies you have made from April, May, June, you will report it in the GSTR-1 by the 13th of July. All of this is 13th of the subsequent month, and subsequent month of the end of the quarter. It means QRMP has both the options. Yes, he has both the options. He has the option not to file IFF also. Can you explain why TCS and TDS person not file GSTR-1? They are not making any supplies. They are only deducting taxes and collecting taxes. So there is no outward supply what they are making. कॉम्पोजिशन डीलर नॉट फाइल GSTR-1 भी कॉम्पोजिशन डीलर क्यों फाइल नहीं करेगा? क्योंकि कॉम्पोजिशन डीलर जो है वो जो सप्लाई करता है उसके ऊपर टैक्सेस इतना छोटा है, 1% और 2.5%, 0.5%, इतना छोटा परसेंटेज है। उनका 18% से सीधा 1% पे ला दिया है। अगर आप 1% आपके पॉकेट से नहीं भर सकते, वो भी कस्टमर से लोगे, तो मैं आपको कॉम्पोजिशन डीलर का बेनिफिट क्यों दूं? तो इसीलिए कॉम्पोजिशन डीलर को कहा है कि आप 1% चार्ज करो, लेकिन आपको कस्टमर से कलेक्ट नहीं करना है, आपके जेब से पे करना है। अगर आप अपनी जेब से पे करोगे तो फिर आपका GSTR-1 के लिए कौन वेट कर रहा है? क्योंकि अगर आपका क्रेडिट ही मुझे नहीं मिल रहा है तो फिर आपका 1 मेरे GSTR-2A में आए न आए कुछ फर्क नहीं पड़ता है। इसीलिए कॉम्पोजिशन डीलर को GSTR-1 फाइल करने की जरूरत नहीं। Hemlata, right. Debit notes for Jan, invoices for Jan will be uploaded in IFF by the 13th. Correct. Okay. Any more questions? How the QRMP taxpayer will pay the tax monthly without filing the GSTR-3B? He will not file the return, but he will do the calculation and he will pay the taxes based on that. Okay. But there's one more option for him, that he's lazy even not to do that. So then he can do the tax payment on the assumption basis also, that we will come in sometime when we discuss the QRMP. Sir, I have issued an invoice dated 1st April, but I'm filing the details in June QRMP. Whether the taxpayer is liable to pay interest? Yes, somebody has asked this question. Same thing, Sri Lakshmi, that if you have reported in April, but you're paying taxes in June, then you have to pay interest for that. If registration get on 1st February, then he files 1 month return. Then after financial period, file QRMP. On that or other way, it's possible. Correct. So there is a time limit when he can opt in. At the time of registration itself, he can opt in, or later on also he can opt for QRMP scheme. Under TDS, person is taking goods or services and paying to supplier by deducting TDS. That's why they are not allowed. No, it's not that it's just giving a credit. So for TDS, there's a separate return as such. So in your example, if Mayur claims the input, then he is deviating from 16 to AA. Correct. He will be deviating. So he will have to wait for it to appear in his GSTR-2A. Sir, Sri Lakshmi, in your example, if your reporting itself is in June, it means is the time of supply in June, then it's fine. If your time of supply is in April and you are doing some wrong thing, then there is a interest liability. Is it compulsory to file IFF? No, it is optional. 1 month, yes, 1 month you file, 1 month you don't file, that is fine. OIDAR का मतलब है Online Information Database Access and Retrieval Services, wherein there is a specified services कि आप जैसे ऑनलाइन पे सॉन्ग डाउनलोड करते हो फ्रॉम ऑनलाइन पोर्टल्स outside India. So that is called as OIDAR, जिसके ऊपर taxes OIDAR वाला ही फाइल करेगा. Okay, that is OIDAR. Sure, Aditi, let's go a little fast now. Now, furnishing details of outward supply invoice to be uploaded anytime during the tax period, not necessarily between 1 to 10. So, invoice for the month of August, this GSTR-1 can be uploaded from 1st to 10th September. Okay, so you can do the uploading. Okay, now when you have to submit it, 11th ka jo date hai, it is submitting, but during the month, whatever sales you do, you can keep uploading, but it will not get submitted. The submission will happen by the 11th. Invoice can be modified, deleted any number of times, which means that actual invoice generated will be same, but the data on the portal can be checked and corrected till it is submitted. Now, when we file GSTR-1, we will give various details. We will discuss what all details we'll give in a subsequent style. But the important point is we are not giving any copy of the invoices. So government बैठ के एक invoices check नहीं करेगा. आपको सिर्फ information देना है. So we are only giving the information. In case of Schedule 1 transaction, the taxable value has to be worked out as per valuation rules and uploaded. Because Schedule 1 transaction is that transaction wherein it is a deemed value. Even if you don't raise the invoice, it is considered that where no consideration is there. In case of Schedule 1 transactions, you have to upload the details, right? Because you have to pay taxes. तो आप जो valuation rules के हिसाब से valuation लेंगे, उसके basis पे आपको GSTR-1 फाइल करना है. Description of each item, like what? Like product name, color, height, weight, etc. are not to be uploaded. Only the main details has to be uploaded and HSN number you have to give. So if you have multiple varieties of products, each variety का नाम देने की जरूरत नहीं है. Main product name, main category you have to upload. That is also by giving a HSN. That's all. And SAC code for services. Now, what is this HSN code? This is a unique harmonized system of nomenclature which is given by the customs. Now, that harmonized system of nomenclature is a 6-digit code which is used globally. That system is adopted in customs and that system is adopted in GST. So, अगर goods है तो HSN है और अगर services है तो service accounting code है. So, HSN and SEC code you have to report. What you have to report, up to what digits you have to report. सभी को 6 digits का reporting अभी तक समझ में नहीं आया है. So that's why government is saying if you are a bigger taxpayer, if your turnover is more than 5 crores, then for any B2B is when you are supplying it to another registered person, give code up to 4 digits of HSN code. And if you are a B2C supplier, give 4 digit, but it's optional. मतलब you can give lesser digits or no digits also. But for B2B supply, you have to compulsorily give 4 digits. And I mean, that's for a turnover if you're a small turnover. I said wrong, big turnover, so it's a small turnover, wherein your turnover is up to 5 crores, then 4 digits for B2B and B2C optional. If your turnover is more than 5 crores in the preceding financial year, we will see this from the basis of preceding financial year, which is your aggregate turnover. If your turnover is big, is more than 5 crores, you're a big taxpayer. Then for B2B supply and B2B supply, up to 6 digit you have to give. Then there is no bifurcation. For more than 5 crores, give 6 digit. For less than 5 crores, give 4 digit. And if you're supplying to B2C, it is optional. Okay. Generally, when is the person debarred from filing GSTR-1? You're doing this filing of GSTR-1. Now the government may give restrictions saying that you are not allowed to file GSTR-1. When generally GSTR-1 of the previous month has to be filed before filing GSTR-1 of the current month. Like how we said 10th is the due date, then the commissioner had a power so that relaxation of 11th and 13th happened. Similarly, in filing GSTR-1, you have to file GSTR-1 of the previous month and then you have to file GSTR-1 of this month. Again, here there is a relaxation which is given and that relaxation is optimized through this rule. And the rule says, if a registered person shall not be allowed to furnish the details, the GSTR-1, if he has not furnished the return in GSTR-3B for the preceding month. तो अगर आपको इस मंथ का GSTR-1 फाइल करना है तो आपको पिछले महीने का GSTR-1 फाइल किया रहना चाहिए. You should file your GSTR-3B of your previous months. Only then you can file GSTR-1 of the current month. Second, a registered person opting for QRMP also, he shall not be allowed to furnish the details of outward supplies in GSTR-1 if he has not furnished the return in 3B of the preceding tax period. He will not be allowed to file IFF also. And third is a bigger one. So we'll go to the next slide. A registered person to whom an intimation has been issued on the common portal under the provisions of Rule 88C. There is a special provision of 88C. In that case, if you're getting a order, if you're getting a notice, okay, he shall not be allowed to furnish details in GSTR-1 or IFF unless he does one thing. Either he has deposited the amount which is specified in this notice or he has furnished a reply. What is 88C will come, but understand for now, if I get a notice under 88C, then उसमें अगर कुछ taxes है, I should agree of that tax and pay it, or I should file a reply within 7 days. If I don't do either of these two, then I will be blocked from filing GSTR-1. ठीक है? QRMP supplier is turnover more than 5 crores? Yes. Who is GSTR 4A and 6A? We'll come to that. 4A is for composition dealer and 6A is for NRTP. We'll come to that. Till now, is it clear? Revision in Hindi, which part, Mayur? कि कौन GSTR-1 फाइल नहीं कर सकता है. ठीक है. सो हम लोगों ने देखा यहाँ पे वी हैव सीन की HSN डिटेल्स मेंशन करना चाहिए. अगर छोटा डीलर है तो अप टू 4 डिजिट्स और बड़ा डीलर है तो 6 डिजिट. दैट इज HSN डिटेल्स. अभी GSTR-1 कुछ लोग फाइल नहीं कर सकते. कौन है वो लोग? जिन्होंने पिछले महीने का, अगर रेगुलर टैक्स पेयर है तो उसका मंथली रिटर्न्स है, तो अगर उसने पिछले महीने का GSTR-3B फाइल नहीं किया तो इस महीने का GSTR-1 फाइल नहीं कर सकता है. और अगर QRMP स्कीम वाला है तो उसने पिछले क्वार्टर का GSTR-3B फाइल नहीं किया तो वो इस महीने का IFF भी फाइल नहीं करेगा और सब्सिक्वेंटली GSTR-1 भी फाइल नहीं कर सकता. ठीक है. देन थर्ड कैटेगरी पर्सन है जिसको नोटिस मिला है अंडर रूल 88C. वो रूल हम आगे पढ़ेंगे, लेकिन अभी के लिए समझिए, अगर किसी को 88C के तहत, रूल के तहत आपको कुछ नोटिस मिला है, तो अगर नोटिस में आप जो अमाउंट है अगर आप उससे अग्री होते हो, ठीक है, तो वो अमाउंट पे कर दीजिए, वरना उसका रिप्लाई कीजिए विद इन 7 डेज टाइम. अगर 7 दिन के अंदर आप रिप्लाई कर देते हो तो आपको रिटर्न फाइल करने की अवसर मिलेगा. अगर आप फाइल नहीं करते हो रिप्लाई 7 दिन के अंदर तो आपका GSTR-1 और IFF ब्लॉक हो जाएगा. ठीक है. प्लीज समराइज स्लाइड नंबर 10. ओके. सो 10 क्या बोलता है? इट्स वेरी सिंपल. इन केस ऑफ 10 देयर इज नथिंग मच. 10 says invoice is to be uploaded anytime, which means that when the due date is 11th, you don't have to sit in front of system on 11th only and file it. You can file it before that also. But for this month's data, you have to wait till the month end. Correct? Now, if you're filing for the month of August, you have to wait for the August to get completed. So in between, August month portal will open and it will allow you to file the data, but it will not allow you to submit. So you keep uploading the information. And if the actual invoice and the data, if there's any mistake, you can do the correction because you have not submitted. You have not filed it. Once you file it, then you cannot change it. Before filing, it is not yet filed. So it's just a draft data which is available. Okay. And we don't have to upload the scanned copy of invoices. We have to give only those essential information which is required for. And we don't have to give specific details. You have to only give the bigger details is what the slide is saying. Pooja, when we come to GSTR 4, I will take your question. Okay, so let's proceed further. We got this, we got this. We have completed this, and we have completed this as well. Which means what? What I have said, that who will not be allowed to furnish the returns in case of a GSTR-1 is return not furnished in GSTR-3B of the preceding month. And if it's for a GSTR-1 or a IFF filer, if the person opting for QRMP scheme has not furnished 3B for the preceding tax period, and for both people, persons to whom intimation has been issued under 88C, unless he deposits the amount in intimation or furnishes a reply explaining for the unpaid amount within 7 days. If he doesn't do this, then his return will be blocked. GSTR-1, what are the other details? Can I file GSTR before the end of the month? No, because the data can be uploaded and saved only at the end of the month. After the month starts, you can submit it. Exception is casual taxable person. For him, he will be there for a short duration. He will not wait for the month end, neither the officer will wait for the month end. Now, his duration is for 3 plus 3, 6 months. Now, if he started in between the month, then he will end also in between the month. For this person, he can file it in between the month also. Because say his exhibition he had come from 15th, this 15th it is getting over. So from last 15th to month end, he will file one return. And from this month starting till the 15th, he will file the second return. So casual taxable person, after the close of business, for that duration, he can file the return. Then people who are under cancellation of GST of a normal taxpayer, after confirming the receipt of cancellation application, they will file the GSTR return one for the part month also. Okay, they don't have to wait for the whole month to get completed. And if no business activity is there, still nil returns has to be filed. That is what GSTR-1 says, that if you don't have business, so report it saying that you don't have any business, file nil GSTR-1. A person who is opting for voluntary cancellation of GST need to file that for the active period. In case of conversion from normal taxpayer to composition taxpayer, file GSTR-1 for the period for which you are a normal taxpayer, because your composition taxpayer need not file, but you have been converted from normal to composition. So for that duration of your being normal taxpayer, please file your GSTR-1. Now, what are the contents of GSTR-1? GSTR-1 has basic information, which is GSTN of the business, legal name and trade name, the aggregate turnover of the previous year. This will get auto-populated. What is the tax period for which you're filing? If you're a monthly filer, then you will mention the month and the year. If you're a quarterly filer, you'll mention the quarter. Then HSN-wise summary of your outward supplies. Okay, the summary of total HSN-wise kitna supplies hai, that you will mention. What are the documents issued during the period? Okay, debit notes, invoices. Invoices may you don't have to mention 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 full starting number, end number. What are the documents issued and what is the document starting number? What is the document ending number? Invoices, credit notes, debit notes issued during the month. Then details of advances received and adjusted during the month, because advances when you receive, on that also supply has to be made. So that also you will receive report in your GSTR-1. Then taxable supplies, sales made to B2B supplies, interstate sales to unregistered persons for value more than 2.5 lakhs. Then sales made to unregistered persons not covered under point 2, that is interstate sales to unregistered person below value of 2.5 lakhs. So supplies made to B2B, any value you have to report. Supplies made to B2C, unregistered person, if you are making interstate supply and the value of that invoice is more than 2.5 crores, then you will report separately. And to unregistered person for whom the value is less than 2.5 lakhs, that you will report separately. Then all your export, zero rated supplies and deemed export, nil rated, exempt and non-GST supplies separately, debit notes and credit notes issued, amendments in taxable value. After all the supplies, any amendments is there for the previous month supply, that also has to be separately reported. Can GSTR-3B file without filing GSTR-1? No, it cannot be. Is casual taxable person does not have business any period, then also he has to file GSTR-1? Yes, still has to. Okay. So you digest more things. We will see the reporting of GSTR-1 in terms of this point 1 and point 2. Any questions on the contents of GSTR-1? Please go through and throw up your questions. We'll take a break of 5 minutes and we'll catch again at 7:35. Today we'll not make late because it's a very lengthy chapter. So we will come back at 7:35. So I've got some questions here. First is Nistala, are you there? Your point on question on point number 7. Is it this or this? Okay. I assume this is this. Amendments in taxable sales or supplies made to registered business in previous months. So we said no, that you can do amendments also in the GSTR-1, that last month you had made a supply to one of your customers. Now that customer's GSTI number you mentioned wrongly, so it is not appearing in his GSTR-2A. So he says that please correct this. So next month when you file the GSTR-1, that time you have an option in GSTR-1 of an amendment. Through that amendment, you can correct the GSTI number so that that credit will go to the correct person. So if you receive 86C notice on 8/10 of month, 8 to 10 of month, then we cannot furnish previous month GSTR-1. Then can supplier have to pay interest for late furnished? Didn't understand your question, Vaishali. B2B includes supplies made to composition scheme dealer. Is it correct? Yes, because he's registered, so that will also include. He will not get the credit, but from your perspective, you are making supply to a B2B customer, so you will include it in the B2B customers thing itself. Interstate from me to unregistered person. Not furnish if sale is less than 2.5 lakh per invoice, or monthly or quarterly if quarterly payer, any limit on intrastate supply? No. There's no limit on there's no difference between a quarterly payer or a monthly payer. So this information, what is there, it is for a monthly as well as quarterly payer. Okay, no differential between that. If you are under QRMP scheme, you have to give less details. If you are under regular scheme, you have to give more details. Nothing like that. This information is same, but the requirement says that if you are making supply to a B2B customer, okay, so he has to get the credit. There is no option. You will have to mention invoice wise details. Now B2B can be interstate or intrastate. If he is a registered person, he wants the credit, so you will mention invoice wise details. And if it is B2C, then if it is interstate, there are two things. If it is an interstate, the invoice value is 2.5 lakhs and above, then you will give invoice wise details. If it is an interstate B2C, then you will give, if it is B2C interstate and the value is less than 2.5 lakhs, then it will be rate wise, consolidated rate wise. And if it is B2C intrastate for any value, which is made to an unregistered person, then you will report consolidated based on rate of tax. Means what? Very simple. I have made supply to you. You are registered. I will give you invoice wise details. Another person is in the same state. I will give invoice wise details. Now you are not registered. It means it's a B2C supply. The value is more than 2.5 lakhs. You are from a different state. Then I have to upload invoice wise details. Now same interstate I do, but your value is less than 2.5 lakhs. I will consolidate all such supplies to B2C because they are not getting the credit. So I will consolidate it and report it. That is interstate. And intrastate, irrespective of the value, I will do consolidated itself. Another way to report this is B2B, interstate and intrastate supply made to registered person. B2C, what is there in blue is invoice wise, what is in purple is consolidated wise. Interstate and intrastate supplies to registered person, invoice wise. Interstate, more than 2.5 lakh, invoice wise. B2C, interstate, less than 2.5 lakhs, consolidated. B2C, intrastate, unregistered, again consolidated. Clear now? Contents point number 3. Is it for B2B supplier? Contents point number 3. Aggregate turnover in the previous year. Is it this? Aggregate turnover of previous year will be for everybody. And point number 3 is where you're making sale to unregistered person, not covered in point 2. That is what we are explaining in this reporting. Clear? Each rate of tax means you have various rates of tax, right? 18%, 5%. So rate wise, you have to do the reporting, saying that from this supplier, what is the rate of tax and how much tax you've collected. So if you're making B2C supplies to various people, so rate wise, you have to give the details. Yeah, slide number 17, Nistala. It says that point number 3, when you're making sales to unregistered persons, which is not covered above, which is you're making B2C supplies for a value less than 2.5, and will give consolidated reporting and not individual reporting. That is what point 3 says. If supplier gets 86C notice on the 8th of the month, then not able to furnish GSTR-1 of the previous month or the present month. Correct. Then interest will apply. Yes. If he doesn't respond to the 86C notice on 88C notice on time, then his return gets delayed. For that, he will have to pay the interest. He cannot complain that officer has blocked it. Officer has blocked it because there is a misreporting. So they will not give a this thing notice just like that. There is a basis for giving that notice, and if there is a delay because of 88C, you have to pay interest. So consolidation means what? Consolidation means if I am supplying it to 100 unregistered person, I don't have to mention invoice number 5. This is to unregistered person, value, tax. If I am giving another invoice number 17 invoice number, this is the value, this is the tax, I don't have to do. All such unregistered persons invoices I will add together and give in one line saying that supply to unregistered person, intrastate this much, interstate this much. Under intrastate, 5% values is this much. This is the tax. 18%, X is the value, Y is the tax. 28%, this is the value, and this is the tax. That is the meaning of consolidated. Okay. So another way to understand this is if I'm making B2B supply, let it be interstate or intrastate, I will give invoice-wise details, correct? And if it is B2B, B2C supplies, intrastate, I will give consolidated. If it is interstate, invoice more than 2.5 lakh, invoice-wise details, less than 2.5 lakh, state-wise, rate-wise, consolidated details. Okay, this is clear. Explained through 3 different slides. No confusion with this. Then comes amendments. What I have to do in case of amendments? Amendments could be of 2 types. I have to do the amendments in this respective tables, table 9, 10, and 11. This you don't have to remember. This is only for your reference. There are various tables in the GSTR-1. So up to from 1 to 8 is the details for the current month. And from table 9 to 11 is for the amendments of the data, what I've reported in any of the previous months. I can do the amendment now. What are these amendments? It could be change in original invoice, debit note, credit note, refund voucher. ऐसा नहीं कि आपका पुराना invoice गलत है, उसको आपको छेड़छाड़ी कर दी. That is not permitted. You cannot overwrite an invoice. But if the value in the invoice was 1 lakh rupees, you have reported wrongly 10,000 rupees. एक zero भूल गए हो. Then you can do the correction of that invoice in the portal. Physical invoice, you cannot do amendment. This amendment is amendment in the returns for mistake from the invoice to the data in the portal. If there is any mistake in the portal, you can correct it based on the correct invoice. Okay. This doesn't mean you can amend the actual invoice itself. We said no, you cannot amend the invoices. Okay, any of these documents, what you have reported on the portal, if there's mistake, that you can do the amendment. You have mentioned wrong GSTIN number, then you can do the correction. Then omitted to include in the previous month, then you can add it in the subsequent month. Invoice number 1 to 50 I have issued. I have uploaded all the invoices from 1 to 50, but invoice number 15 got missed out. But that was a genuine sale. Now, invoice number 15, I had supplied to Nishtala. Nishtala is saying me, sir, you have supplied me, but my credit is not appearing. So next month, when I file the return, I can include it. That is also permitted. Clear? Effect of rectification is to the extent of correction, the supplier has to pay the tax and interest. If there is an increase, I cannot take this amendment as a new route for paying less taxes in the previous month and paying now and avoiding interest. No. If there is a mistake, pay interest if you have paid the less taxes. Time limit for rectification. Up till what time can you do the rectification? 2017 GST has started. That time my invoice was wrong. My customer came now saying that my scrutiny is happening and I see that your invoice, what you have reported to me is wrong. Can I do the correction now? I cannot do the correction. There is a time limit for rectification. What is this time limit? I can do this rectification by the 30th day of November following the end of the financial year. Okay. End of the financial year from there, 30th November. So for 22-23, whatever sales I've reported, if I have to do any rectification, I can do it before the 30th November 2023. April 22's invoice also I can correct it by November 23. So much time you have. Or date of filing annual return for 22-23. For every year, the annual return due date is 31st December of the subsequent year. So for 22-23, by December 31st, 2023, I have to file the annual return. Whichever is earlier, I have to file a rectification. So if I filed my annual returns on September, then after September, I cannot do the correction. But if I file my return on December, then I can do the rectification by 30th November. Awesome. Let's proceed with communication of details of inward supplies and input tax credit. Harshit, awesome. No confusion. टाइम लिमिट हिंदी में एक्सप्लेन श्योर तो क्या बोलता है टाइम लिमिट आप अमेंड कर सकते हो आपके इनवॉइसेस को अमेंडमेंट क्या करोगे आप इनवॉइसेस को चेंज करोगे नहीं इनवॉइसेस को आप चेंज नहीं कर सकते हो आप किसको चेंज कर सकते हो जो आपने डेटा पोर्टल में अपलोड किया है उसमें कुछ गलती है तो उसको करेक्शन कर सकते हैं नहीं ऐसे नहीं कि आपका इनवॉइस गलत हो गया उसको छेड़छाड़ करके उसमें ओवरराइटिंग करके अलाउड है नहीं ओवरराइटिंग ऑफ इनवॉइसेस क्रेडिट नोट्स डेबिट नोट्स डॉक्यूमेंट्स परमिटेड नहीं है उसमें आपको कुछ करेक्शन करना है तो आपको डेबिट नोट या क्रेडिट नोट रेज करना पड़ेगा लेकिन पोर्टल में आपने जो इन्फॉर्मेशन किया उसको करेक्ट करना है तो उसके लिए अमेंडमेंट पॉसिबल है कब तक का अमेंडमेंट कर सकते हैं 22-23 का अगर डेटा है 22-23 का एक्चुअल ट्रांजैक्शन है उसका करेक्शन आप नवंबर 30th या 31st दिसंबर विच एवर इज अर्लियर 31st दिसंबर मतलब एनुअल रिटर्न फाइलिंग का डेट या 30th नवंबर कोई भी विच एवर इज अर्लियर आप रेक्टिफिकेशन कर सकते हो आपने बहुत एक्यूरेसी है और आपने एनुअल रिटर्न टाइम से पहले फाइल कर दिया है जैसे जुलाई में ही फाइल कर दिया है तो आपका रेक्टिफिकेशन का टाइम लिमिट जुलाई तक रुक जाएगा आप नवंबर तक रेक्टिफिकेशन नहीं कर पाओगे तो इसीलिए आपका एनुअल रिटर्न भी आप आराम से फाइल कीजिए बहुत जल्दी भी फाइल कीजिए If we missed out the tax invoice in GSTR-1, if we paid tax relevant on that invoice, at least should we avoid the interest? Yes. If you have paid the taxes, you have not reported, you can avoid the interest, but report it in the subsequent GSTR-1. Okay. Now let's proceed with communication of details of outward supplies we understood. Now communication of details of inward supplies and input tax credit. Outward supply, we will make the outward supplies and we will pay the taxes in 3B. Then we will claim the credit. We will claim the credit through this statement of inward supply. How does this happen? This is through section fast. This is happening and through section 38 and rule 60, 38 and 60. Whatever GSTR-1 we've heard, we have learned that reporting will get auto-populated and you'll get a statement called GSTR-2A And now you will get GSTR-2B also. So there will be two statements. One is GSTR-2A and one is GSTR-2B. Okay, GSTR-1, then GSTR-2A and 2B. Then output minus input will be your final GSTR-3B return. When he files GSTR-1, it will come to me as my A or 2B. I will see my output supplies, claim credit as per 2A and 2B, and file the final return in GSTR-3B. This is the overall flow. Now, what details come to me in this inward supply is section 38. Let us read. It says the details of outward supplies furnished by the registered persons under section 37(1), which is GSTR-1, and of such other supplies as may be prescribed, and an auto-generated statement. So GSTR-2A मैंने first slide में क्यों नहीं लिखा था? Because it's an auto-generated statement. GSTR-2A, GSTR-2B are automated statements containing the details of input tax credit shall be made available electronically to the recipients. It shall be made available to the recipients of such supplies in such form and manner within such time and subject to such conditions and restrictions as we described. You have to very much read the sections so that you understand the gist. That's why I'm reproducing the section. It says the details of outward supplies which is furnished by the supplier will get auto-populated to you along with the details of input tax credit, which shall be made electronically available to you. And such supplies will become form within such manner and such form, matlab, the form and manner will be described in the rules. So the rule says what will be made available to you. Now, section 38 further says that, let me zoom this. Problem with the PPT. Okay. Auto-generated statement will contain the details of inward supplies in respect of which ITC may be available to the recipient. So auto-generated statement shall be made available, which will give you the details of inward supplies in respect of which ITC may be available. And it will also give the details of supplies in respect of which such ITC cannot be availed. Okay, so they will give you a statement wherein ITC is uploaded by your supplier and ITC is available, and they will also give you a statement in which ITC cannot be availed wholly or partially by the recipient on account of the details of the said supplies being furnished by the registered person. So he's a registered person, still we cannot claim the credit. Why? Because he is a new registrant. Okay, so if he's a new registrant, then you cannot claim the credit. So these are there in the section, but not effective to the rules. So it's only there in the law, not implemented. So this second part B, which we are discussing, it is just available. Only few points are come in the rules, not everything. But we need to know the law. So GSTR-2A, where you will get two documents. One is all the credits, what has been uploaded. One will be which you can claim. Second is which you cannot claim. What all the categories you cannot claim. If you're buying from a new registrant, credit will not be available. If you're buying from a person who has defaulted in payment of tax, then it will not be available. Then whose output taxes in GSTR-1 is more than the 3B, then will not be available. Or who has availed ITC of an amount that exceeds the credit that can be availed, like how we are claiming credit. Similarly, he has to claim credit from his GSTR-2B. Now, if he has claimed more credit than his things in the if he's claimed more credit than what is there in his GSTR-2B, then also credit will be blocked. Who has defaulted in discharging his tax liability, then also it will be blocked, and any other specified person. So these are only theoretical, not practical, for two reasons. One is this is not come in as a rule. Second is we don't have to bother because the government says that they will give a auto-generated state. So we do not have to go and find out whether that ITC, what he's claimed is more or less, whether he's claimed correct ITC or no. The system will calculate this and give us an auto-generated state. Since the rules have not come, this is not fully implemented, but we need to know that it is there in the Act. You have read the section 38 in input tax, very good. So you are clear with section 38 then. Awesome. Thanks, Nagraju, for bringing that section 38 is covered. That's very helpful. So you know 38 now. Now let's proceed on rule 88C. When we have said no, that we will come to 88C, that if anybody is served with rule notice under 88C, then what you have to do? You should pay the tax or file the response within 7 days. Now, what does rule 88C says is, if there is any difference in liability which is reported in GSTR-1 and 3B, okay, GSTR-1 and 3B or should be same. It is like your right eye and left eye. What your right eye sees, your left eye also should ideally see that. But sometimes it happens that you see more from your right eye than your left eye, which means your GSTR-1, your outward supply is more and you're paying less taxes. There could be reasons that you have reported more wrongly and you have paid taxes less, or you have reported less and paid taxes more. That will not happen. No, you'll report less and pay more taxes. We are not so generous. You'll report more and pay taxes less only, so that you want to cut corners and pay taxes less. So if you do that, okay, if your GSTR-1, which is your declared liability, and GSTR-3B is your paid liability, okay, if your declared liability is more than your paid liability, it means you're cheating the government. If you give GSTR-1, the other person will get in his GSTR-2B and he will claim the credit. So if your GSTR-1 is more than your GSTR-3B, then you will get a notice. If your tax liability as per 1 is greater than 3B, the registered person will be intimated on the portal of the differences and will be directed. How will be intimated? Through this rule 88C. He will be directed to pay the differential tax liability, saying that in GSTR-1, you have 1 lakh. In your GSTR-3B, you have 80,000. To the extent of 20,000, pay the differential tax now. On the 20,000 at the tax rate, pay the tax now, or explain the difference within 7 days. Sometimes what happened, last month I have filed more 3B and paid less 1, or somebody gave an example that I paid the taxes correctly, sir, but I forgot to include in my GSTR-1 of that month. Then you will include in this month. Then obviously your 1 will be more than 3B. But how does the officer know? He does not know. So we'll just do a mathematical comparison between 1 and 3B and he'll give you a notice. Now you give an explanation within 7 days. Then what happens? Unless any one of the above action you take, he will not be allowed to file GSTR-1 or IFF for the subsequent period. You have to be proactive. Respond to this saying that I have reported this sales in my previous month's 3B, or any other sufficient reason you give. Then if he's convinced, fine. Otherwise, you will not be allowed to file your IFF or GSTR-1. If I have purchased from unregistered person, then I have to pay tax under reverse charge? No. If you purchase from unregistered person, then you don't have to pay tax under reverse charge. That's a wrong notion. If section 17 supplies shown in GSTR-2A, yes, if section 17 supplies are shown in the GSTR-2A, you have to reverse the credit. So you have to claim in your, you don't have to claim it, but if you claim it, then you have an option to reverse it so that you can show that I have claimed it. And in your GSTR-3B, you have an option of showing what all credits you're not claiming. So that can be shown in your GSTR-3B. Not what everything appears in your GSTR-2A, you should blindly claim it. That's not the correct way. self-invoice issued for purchase from unregistered person. Why did you issue invoice from purchase from unregistered person? Is it required? For availing ITC, no, you don't have to. You will not get ITC also if you're raising self-invoice for purchase from unregistered person. RCM is not for purchase from unregistered person. If you purchase from unregistered person, where is it mentioned that you have to pay under RCM? You don't have to. That's a wrong notion. So your actual question, Mayur, is under RCM. So that is the question. Not that from every unregistered person you purchase, you have to pay RCM. No, only in case of a builder. If you remember, we had spoken of this under exemption, that a builder will pay RCM if he is buying below 80% from unregistered person, only in that case, and in specified cases, not in every case. Correct? So if that is the case, only in that case, you have to pay taxes under RCM. But in other cases, that is, if an advocate supplies to you and he is unregistered, registered or unregistered, secondary, if you are taking services from a advocate, if you are taking services from a GTA, then you will raise a self invoice and that will come in your GSTR-3B. It will not appear in your GSTR-1. It will not appear in your GSTR-2A. Those reverse charge cases will be on the basis of your payment of tax. If you report it correctly in your GSTR-3B as supplies on which reverse charge is payable, then you can claim the credit. For that credit, the evidence will be the tax payment receipt what you have and the self invoice that you don't have to report it anywhere in your GSTR-2A nor in GSTR-1. Clear now? During the period of 7 days, Mansi, very good question, that I get time of 7 days. So as soon as I get the notice, will it get blocked? No, it will not get blocked. During those 7 days, you can file your GSTR-1 and IFF. At the end of 7th day, if you don't respond, only then you will not, your GSTR-1 and IFF gets blocked. Awesome. So let's proceed. GSTR-1 and 3B rule 88C we understood. Now we were discussing on GSTR-2A. Now there are two statements which gets auto-populate. One is GSTR-2A and GSTR-2B. Basis this, we can claim the credit. Again, in this, not 100% is your credit. Like our friend was saying that in GSTR-2A, if there is any restricted credits, what is there under section 17, appearing in GSTR-2A and 2B, still we cannot claim the credit. What is GSTR-2A? GSTR-2A is a system generated read-only statement of inward supplies. All your inward supplies will be in GSTR-2A. It is updated on real-time basis. Okay, real-time basis means as soon as that supplier uploads, you can see it. It reflects the details of invoice furnished by a non-resident taxable person in form GSTR-5. Okay, then like we had said, NRTP will not file GSTR-1, he will file this GSTR-5. It reflects details of invoice furnished by a input service distributor in form GSTR-6. That also will come here. It reflects details of TDS by deductor furnished in GSTR-7. Okay, and it reflects details of TDS by e-commerce operator furnished in GSTR 8. All of this will come. Then what is GSTR-2B? This is an auto-generated statement containing the details of eligible ITC that is available once a month. GSTR-2A, you can download anytime. Today you download, you will get a different value. It is possible that you download tomorrow, you'll get a different value because it's a dynamic statement. It is getting updated on real-time basis. Since there were a lot of problem with GSTR-2A, that's when GSTR-2B was developed. And GSTR-2B is available once a month. So that even if you download today, you download tomorrow, you download on the third day, GSTR-2B will be fixed. Okay, but GSTR-2B will be fixed because it collates the data for month and gives you. It is a static statement, not a dynamic statement. Dynamic मतलब हर बार change होते रहता है. क्यों change होता है? क्योंकि based on your supplier, if he's uploaded 2023's data now, your GSTR-2A will change, but GSTR-2B will not change because he's uploaded now. It will show in today this month's 3B in 2B saying that this is for that month's invoice. Okay. Then it reflects the details of outward supplies furnished by the suppliers in form GSTR-1, 5, and 6 between the cutoff dates. Between the cutoff date, if they have reported on timely basis, then it will come in your GSTR-2B. Otherwise, it will come in next month's 2B. Details of outward supplies furnished by the supplier who has opted for QRMP scheme in form GSTR-1 or IFF between the cutoff dates that will appear, then reflects details of IGST paid on import of goods. On import of goods also we can clean. That detail is not appearing in 2A, but it is appearing in GSTR-2B. Okay, and goods which is brought into a DTA form from a SEZ unit. Okay, domestic tariff area, DTA stands for domestic tariff area clearance from a SEZ unit or a developer. On that also we can claim the input tax credit. So all of this will appear in a GSTR-2B. Now, when is my GSTR-2B available? The statement in GSTR-2B is available every month, shall be made available to the registered person for the first and second month of a quarter. Okay, a day after the due date of furnishing of the details of outward supplies for the said month. We know that some people will file IFF, some people monthly filers will file GSTR-1. So when is GSTR-2B available to me? If the IFF by the supplier opting for QRMP, or if the supplier who is supplying filing GSTR-1, whichever is the latest date, that date you will be able to download GSTR-2B, which means what? GSTR-1 कब file होता है? When is the due date and when is the due date for IFF? Respond. 13th of the subsequent month, what? GSTR-1 or IFF? GSTR-1, Harish, good, correct answer. 10th of the subsequent month, Vaishali, that's a wrong answer. Due date of IFF is 13th of subsequent month and 13th of the first month of the next quarter. Normal. If it's a monthly taxpayer, Mayur, when will he file this GSTR-1? Puja Kaur, 10th of the next month, wrong. 10th is there, but then the commissioner has extended. That's what we had discussed, right? Okay. Few have given a correct answer. GSTR-1, 11th day of the succeeding month and IFF 13th. Correct, Mansi. IFF तो मंथली पे होता है, हाँ मंथली पे होता है। कब? श्री लक्ष्मी 11th, both. You have to give a correct answer for both. Nagaraju, not 10th or 13th. What do you mean 10th or 13th? Optional, huh? It is one day, right? So 11th, we had discussed that 11th IFF has to, 11th GSTR1 has to be filed, and 11th IFF has to be filed. 13th IFF has to be filed. So GSTR1. So when this will be available? If the IFF by the registered person opting for QRMP. So if any person who's filing IFF, he will file by the 13th, and the GSTR1 by the 11th. Whichever is later, which is the latest date? 13th. So after 13th, which is on 14th, you will be able to download your GSTR-2B. And if the third month of a quarter, a day after the due date of furnishing the details of outward supplies for the said month, inform GSTR1, because normally it is 13th and GSTR1 is also 13th. So if the dates change, then it is different. For now, it is that GSTR-2B will be available to you after the 13th itself. That is what is the implication here. In theoretical sense, they have given you the due dates, but in actual sense, what will happen is you will get your GSTR-2B will be available by the 13th of the subsequent. Okay. So your GSTR-2B you can download by the end of the 13th. Because all the reports which appear, because GSTR-2B you can download only, I mean, it is a static information, so it cannot change. So if it will wait for everybody is uploading, everybody who has to file IFF, anybody who has to file GSTR1, सबका reporting कब तक होगा? By 13th. So effectively 13th, if after everybody files, or effectively 14th, it will be available to you. Clear? Let's proceed with what happens in case of furnishing of returns, which is your GSTR-3B. We saw the chart, no? GSTR-1, then you get GSTR-2A, then you file your GSTR-3B. Okay, how do we file the GSTR-3B? Very simple. Returns for regular taxpayer who is eligible to file. Every registered person other than a ISD, NRTP, composition dealer, TDS payer, or a TCS payer. Apart from this, they have to file the GSTR-3B. And QRMP, these people will file it monthly, and QRMP scheme person will file it quarterly. What form? GSTR-3B. Summary of outward supplies, inward supplies liable to reverse charge, eligible ITC, and payment of taxes. Majorly this information. What are the due dates? Monthly 20th, quarterly 22nd or 24th from the end of the quarter. So if I am a monthly filer, for the month of April, I will file it by the 20th May. If I'm a quarterly filer for April, what will be the due date? Come on, let's answer this quickly and let's finish this GSTR-3B today. 15th. My question is, for the month of April, quarterly monthly statement filers, they will file it by the 20th. Now, if they are a quarterly filer, for the month of April, when will they file it? Sri Lakshmi, right answer. Aisha Patka, right answer. Vaishali, right answer. Rupesh, your answer is wrong. Divyanshi, your answer is wrong. Kindly recheck your answers. When we are saying quarterly filers, how will the month come in between? So a quarter means quarter starts from April. So April, May, June is first quarter. July, August, September is second quarter. October to December is third quarter, and Jan to March is the fourth quarter. So any person who is a quarterly filer, he will file his GSTR-1 or his GSTR-3B at the end of the quarter. So when we are saying 22nd or 24th, it is not 22nd or 24th of May. It is 22nd or 24th after the end of the quarter. So for April sales, they will report it in the April, May, June on the 22nd or 24th July. Okay, people have said 22nd or 24th May, be careful. The question is tricky. You have to be careful. Okay, so not 22nd or 24th June. It is after the end of the quarter. The quarter is going in June, right? So it will be 20th or 24th July, 22nd or 24th July, not 20th. 20th is only for monthly filers. For quarterly filers, it will be 22nd or 24th. What does it mean by or? So they have said that the load should not be more on the portal. So we'll divide portal load into 2 days, 22nd for certain states and 24th for certain states. So some states like Chhattisgarh, they've given a list of states. For them, the due date is 22nd day of the month succeeding such quarter. And for some state, it's on the 24th. Okay. Now, what does QRMP scheme say? Okay. Before getting into QRMP scheme, let us see what details we will upload in GSTR-3B. What details we'll upload? We'll upload GSTIN of the business. Okay, that will be there definitely. First, you have to give your GSTIN number. Even if you log in, these details will already be there. GSTIN, legal name and trade name will be there. You have to select the tax period. Then you have to give the technical details, which is the important details. What details you give? Summarized detail of outward supplies. मतलब जो भी आपने सप्लाई किया उसका summary आप बना के outward supply में दोगे, saying that this is the value of supply and this is the tax. Okay. Then summarize details of inward supplies liable to reverse charge. Then summarize details of inward supplies made to unregistered person. Right? We had seen that bifurcation. Then here we will give the detail. Summarize details of interstate supply made to unregistered person, composition taxable person, and UIN holders. Then eligible ITC. What is the ITC which is available? What is the ITC I've reversed? And this is my net ITC. And I will also do a reporting of ineligible ITC, okay, which I'm not eligible for. That also I will report. Then value of exempt, nil rated, and non-GST inward supplies. Okay. And payment of taxes and any TDS and TCS. So this is what I will do the report. Yeah, we don't, there's no specific mention of this. We can ask on the Board of Studies, Mayur, on whether we have to remember the states of. So this is the reporting what we do in GSTR-3B. Now let us understand the QRMP scheme in detail. Firstly, QRMP scheme is an optional scheme. It is not a compulsory thing that if you are less than 5 crores, compulsory आपको quarterly करना है, नहीं, आपको monthly भी file कर सकते हो, monthly भी payment कर सकते हो. It's a optional scheme. It is introduced for small taxpayers having aggregate turnover PAN based. If your aggregate turnover is less than 5 crores, only then you can opt it. If your aggregate turnover overall India level में आपका turnover more than 5 crores है, you cannot opt this. They can furnish GSTR-3B and 1 on a quarterly basis, but pay taxes on a monthly basis using a simple challan. The invoice furnishing facility, which we discussed, that you don't have to file GSTR-1 on a monthly basis, but you have to file IFF. Yes, and IFF is optional up to a value of rupees 50 lakhs. Beyond 50 lakhs, you cannot include in your IFF. Opting for QRMP scheme is GST and wise. Unlike composition scheme, wherein says that if one GSTIN you have wherein you are opting composition, then all your other GST registration numbers you have to opt for composition. That's not the case with QRMP scheme. QRMP scheme can be for each GST and wise. One GSTIN is opt for QRMP, other GSTN may not opt possible. So QRMP is GSTIN specific, not PAN based specific. The registered person must have, what are the conditions to get into QRMP scheme? First condition is you should have furnished all your outstanding return. ऐसा नहीं कि आपका पुराना रिटर्न पेंडिंग है और आप अभी QRMP स्कीम में मजे कर रहे हो, नहीं, अलाउड नहीं है. आपको पुराने रिटर्न्स फाइल करना है, फिर ही आपको QRMP क्वार्टरली रिटर्न्स फाइल करने का ऑप्शन मिलेगा. How do I exercise this option of QRMP? I should do a indication saying that I want to go on to QRMP scheme. जैसे मैं monthly scheme में जा रहा हूँ, and now you want to get into the QRMP, you can get it. The registered person shall indicate his preference from the first day, okay, from the first day of the second month of the preceding quarter. Okay, you should provide his preference from the first day of the second month of the preceding quarter till the last day of the first month of the quarter, for which this option is exercised. First day, last day is very confusing. Simply put, for the April to June quarter, if he wants for the next quarter, he should opt for it from the February till the 30th April. 30th April, this is wrong. There's no 31st April, there's 30th April. So he should opt for it from the 1st February till the 30th April. ठीक है, इस क्वार्टर का जो आपको QRMP स्कीम जाना है उसके एक महीने पहले, या ठीक है क्वार्टर के एक महीने पहले, विच इज अप्रैल से जाना है, तो आपको फरवरी, मार्च और अप्रैल 3 महीने मिलेंगे आपको ऑप्ट इन करने के लिए. ठीक है भाई, अप्रैल, बिकॉज अप्रैल के बाद मई में आपको यू हैव टू फाइल इधर मंथली और क्वार्टरली, तो उसके पहले यू हैव टू डिसाइड. सो यू कैन ऑप्ट फॉर दिस ऑप्शन बिटवीन दिस पीरियड. दिस इज फॉर अप्रैल टू जून क्वार्टर. अगर जुलाई, अगस्त, सितंबर क्वार्टर के लिए जाना है तो देन यू विल हैव टू ऑप्ट इन बाय जून, मई, फ्रॉम 1st May टू मई, जून या 31st जुलाई. इन 3 महीने में आपको ऑप्ट इन करना होगा. No need to exercise this option every quarter. Agar first you have opted for QRMP, every month you'll be QRMP itself. Unless you want to bring back from QRMP to monthly, then you have to make a request. Otherwise, once you opt for QRMP, you'll be continuing to do QRMP. This option shall lapse. When it shall lapse? When your aggregate turnover crosses 5 crores. ये छोटे लोगों के लिए है, छोटे टर्नओवर वालों के लिए. आप बड़े हो गए हो तो आप इससे निकल जाइए. How you will go out? फ्रॉम द फर्स्ट मंथ ऑफ द सक्सेडिंग क्वार्टर. तो आपका क्वार्टर में आपने क्रॉस कर लिया है, तो इस क्वार्टर को आप वही संभाल के रखिए. नेक्स्ट क्वार्टर से आप यू विल चेंज एंड ही विल हैव टू इंटीमेट इट अगेन इलेक्ट्रॉनिकली. ऐसा नहीं कि गवर्नमेंट को पता चल जाएगा वो चेंज करेंगे, नहीं, आपको चेंज करना होगा. इफ योर टर्नओवर क्रॉसेस 5 crores, देन यू ऑप्ट फॉर रेगुलर स्कीम. फॉर दिस क्वार्टर यू फिनिश ऑफ, नेक्स्ट क्वार्टर गो फॉर रेगुलर स्कीम. He can voluntarily opt out of the monthly filing within the same period as indicated above. अगर आपको बाहर निकलना है तो इस ब्रैकेट में, which we had discussed, within this bracket itself, you can opt out of the scheme. ठीक है. Within this 3 months bracket, you can opt out for this quarter, but otherwise generally the whole period. So that is the QRMP scheme. Now, how does the payment happen? Somebody was asking about the payment. How does the payment happen? Now, how is this QRMP introduced? QRMP is introduced for small taxpayers with aggregate turnover of 5 crores and file GSTR-1 and 3B quarterly. No interest is applicable if 35% of the challan is paid. Okay, so you can, this 25th date is not there. Yeah, so the payment is correct. Your payment, if you're a QRMP scheme, you can make the payment. When you can make the payment? By the 25th of the succeeding month. How much? You have an option to pay a 35% of the total tax liability. If you're filing this 35%, no interest, or you have to pay monthly payment to be done by a simple charan, either by, so you have two options, either by self-assessment. So when you go for QRMP, you have to give your option saying that you want to go for self-assessment of your taxes. That is, you will do your taxes or you don't do your taxes. As I said, if you're very lazy, then you say, okay, 35% of the net cash liability of the previous filed GSTR-3B of the quarter. Whatever is your previous filing, 35% you can pay, and differential can be paid 35, 35, and then 30. That is the option of filing, of making the payment, either self-assessment or 35%. No interest is applicable if 35% of the challan is paid by the 25th, and no payment required if you have no liability for the month or your balance in electronic cash or credit ledger is more. If your credit is more, then also you don't have to pay. So very beautiful scheme, which gives you an option that you do your monthly assessment. You don't want to do it, you can pay a random amount of 35% based on your previous liability. Now, if you have sufficient balance in your cash and credit ledger, then you don't pay interest also. Then IFF is an optional facility for furnishing B2B invoice and passing ITC in month 1 and month 2, which we understood. Different GST on same PAN may file monthly or quarterly in different states. This also we understood. GSTR-2A view to be provided every month. GSTR-2B view to be provided both monthly and quarterly. Scheme opens in December 2020. That is when this started. Quarterly GSTR-1 and maybe 3B may be filed through a simple SMS. Okay, so these are the benefits of QRMP. Okay, now your questions. QRMP will file by 22nd or 24th of the next quarter. Correct. Weightage of chapter. This is very much heavy chapter, so you could expect some questions from this. QRMP will not file GSTR-3B. He will file GSTR-3B. Of course, he will file GSTR-3B because that's the return through which you make your payments. Yes, Avinash Patil, you could refer the previous videos and you could contact. So what is the option of again opting for QRMP if the threshold limit falls? Again, same thing within this quarter, apply for it. When you file your returns, you have an option to opt for QRMP. Just go to the QRMP option within this specified period and you can offer QRMP. Mansi confused about last day and first day. Third point. Okay. The registered person, when he can opt is if he wants to opt for the next quarter, which is a quarter. Let's take months and then explain it. If he wants to opt for April, May, June quarter to go for QRMP, then first day of the second month of the preceding quarter. What is the preceding quarter? April, Jan, Feb, March. Jan, Feb, March का second month कौन सा है? February. So first day of February, correct? He can opt, shall indicate his preference from the first day of the February till the last day of the first month of the quarter. First month of the quarter is April. Last day of that month is April, 30th April. So he can opt for this in between 1st February and 30th April is what is being said here. Clear, Mansi? Yeah, next we have tomorrow a session again on the balance part of the returns. Once we finish the returns, then we will take all practical questions. So we have almost 3 days for dealing with only practical questions wherein all the chapters will get covered. Can we claim ITC? Yes, we can claim ITC in case of QRMP. If you're doing a manual assessment, you're doing a manual calculation, you can claim the credits and net liability you can pay. Okay, you can do that. If you're paying based on that fixed value, then you pay 35% of your previous tax liability. So effectively, you can claim the ITC. So QRMP doesn't mean that it's like a composition, you can't claim ITC, that is different. Here, you're paying quarterly, but you can claim it. So in QRMP, person files IFF instead of GSTR-1, then how will you proceed for GSTR-3B? He files IFF monthly, but at the end of the quarter, he has to compulsorily file GSTR-1. So when he files the GSTR-1, he will file the GSTR-3B after filing the GSTR-1. He will finish GSTR-1 by the 22nd, by the 13th, sorry, by the 13th, he'll finish his IFF. And by 22nd or 24th, he will file the GSTR-3B. Quarterly may 35% tax of the quarter of the previous quarter. In monthly may, sir, also 35% of the last month in quarter. May नहीं, has to be paid by 25th, but उसके पहले भी वो pay कर सकता है. Avinash, in my second lecture, you will see it. So just request you to please see that again. Ms. Fovia, I had explained this. So when you can opt for this QRMP is first day of the second month of the preceding quarter. If you want to opt for the QRMP in the next quarter, in the previous quarter, second month, starting from that till the first month of this current quarter, within this 3 months bracket, you can opt for the QRMP. If you want to exit from the QRMP also, you have to do this within this 3 brackets, 3 months bracket. So you will get 3 months time limit to opt in or opt out of the QRMP scheme. Correct, Aisha. So a person in QRMP is quarterly return and 3B is the return. The term itself says that it's a quarterly return. So he will not file 3B monthly. He will file the 3B on a quarterly basis. एग्जाम में कैलकुलेशन ऑफ इंटरेस्ट आएगा, आ सकता है. Why not? Correct. Okay. Thank you very much for coming on a Sunday and having a patient hearing. So many questions, really encouraging. I think today's session was very good with all your participation. Thank you very much. Have a good Sunday. We'll see you tomorrow on a good start of the week. And from tomorrow, I think till Friday, we have continuous session. So have a continuous rhythm and let's crack all the questions on the subject of GST.